Guys, I need help. First of all right, the way that we can prove that Gypsy was in that room was the fact that Nick said he never told Gypsy what happened. He said that it would traumatize her for life. So, for the fact that Gypsy went to Nick's home and when it made those Facebook posts, I slashed that pig. Why would she use the word slashed unless she knew what happened in that room? If Nick did not tell her what happened in that room, why would she have made the post? Why would she even have put slashed? It would have just said stabbing, because apparently that's all he went in there to do was stab her. He wouldn't have put. Why would she have put slashed? That don't even make sense. But I don't know if I'm right or so. Don't timestamp this, but there is proof that Gypsy was the one that was reaching out to the charities when she was growing up. And there's proof on how to find out. But I have no access to know how to get anything like what I'm about to ask. I need any type of paperwork from the charity, any of the charities that Dee would have signed back then. If I can get access to the signatures of either one, there's a guaranteed way to prove that it was Gypsy that signed those papers back then. And don't hold me to this, but if we can guarantee that Gypsy was the one that was reaching out, which I already know she's the one reaching out, but if there's a way to prove for all the frauding, there's got to be a way to bring her back up on new charges for the frauding. For stealing from charities and everything else, because there's proof that Gypsy was the one that reached out, not Dee. She was going through the mail. She was signing stuff out, putting it back in the mailbox and sending it out to these charities. And Dee had no clue. That's why people were finding mail all over the neighborhood. Because Gypsy was literally going down there, getting what she wanted out, and discarding the rest. The charities, all the charities that were reached out to, they benefited Gypsy. They did not benefit Dee. You not think that for a lady that was going to do all this conning and reaching out to do all this thieving and deception through charities, from stealing from kids, which we know the fact that Gypsy put herself in that wheelchair and wheeled her happy ass into the hospital and went and took from disabled kids every time she done it. Gypsy did, by pretending to be a victim in a wheelchair that could not walk. Every time she went in that hospital and done that, she stole from every kid that was in there that could have benefited from something. So that tells you Gypsy's mindset right there. Number 2, the charities that were reached out, they never benefited Dee. None of them. The fact that Disney and Make-A-Wish and all this, they reached out to, benefited Gypsy, not Dee. For a lady that was going to do all this conning and deception, you don't think that she would have put one charity in there for herself? It don't make sense. There's evidence that Gypsy was pretending to be her mom on multiple Facebook accounts. She was even talking to Chrissy as Dee, and there's proof of that. But there's a guaranteed way. If I can get any paperwork that was signed back then of any of the charities, I can tell you exactly who signed those dates and why. And yeah, up till 2023 was the last recorded date that I would have that I can prove my theory. So if anybody, now this is all allegedly in my theory, don't quote me on all this, but like I said in my previous post, I do not believe that it was D reaching out to these charities. I think the person that put Gypsy in that wheelchair and the person that kept Gypsy in that wheelchair for 14 years is the one behind all of this. And that person is Gypsy, not D. When Gypsy told herself that she could not walk and she decided she was going to tell the world the exact same thing, and she had to double down when she went to the hospital, the fact that her mom was diagnosed with Munchausen syndrome simply because she was standing up and listening to Gypsy. Whenever D started taking up for Gypsy, telling these doctors she could not walk, that's when they're like, wait a minute, something ain't right here. So they assumed it was D doing this to Gypsy when it wasn't. It was Gypsy doing it to Gypsy. So that whole theory and that malingering, that's how that all came about. They knew that D was lying, but D wasn't lying. D was listening to Gypsy. She was doing nothing but caring and loving for her youngin'. And you can't put a puzzle together if that one piece is missing, and that one piece is nothing else makes sense. Like the whole, first of all, nothing makes sense that comes out of that damn youngin's mouth. But second of all, everything that Gypsy bitch is about, Gypsy done it to herself. She took all the stuff that she's blaming her mom from her. She did it to herself. The minute she put her ass in that wheelchair, she took everything a kid should benefit from growing up. Gypsy took that away from her. The reason her mama lost her life was because Gypsy was ready to claim it back, but yet she could not go back on 14 years worth of telling her mom. She didn't even have the guts. She didn't even have the guts to tell her mama the minute that she started to walk. She didn't even have the guts to tell her, hey, I've been lying. If it only for a week. So what makes you think after 14 years she's going to have the balls to tell her that? No, she didn't. It was time for Gypsy to go have a life and not pretend to be a child. And instead of telling her mom that she'd been frauding her or lying to her for the last 14 years, that's why she lost her life. It has nothing to do with, I don't think it had anything to do with a boyfriend. I'm going to say allegedly because that's my whole theory. This was Gypsy. Gypsy was reaching out to the charities. Gypsy was signing the paperwork from the birth certificates. She was the one that was changing her age. She was mailing that stuff back in. She was the one that was making herself look like a 15-year-old at 23 years old. See what I'm saying? If you put it all in a line, it all makes sense. But to connect the dots to who started it all, it was Gypsy. It was not D. Everything falls in place whenever you realize who did what. And it wasn't D. D did not put Gypsy in that wheelchair. D's being blamed for it. But it was Gypsy. Gypsy was too much of a coward to tell her mom she could walk. And I think the very first time, and that's like, she wasn't supposed to know, she wasn't supposed to know about any of the changing about the birthdays or whatever. She didn't know nothing about that, right? Till after she got caught. So, the first time that she ran away with Dan, why the fuck was the first thing that she grabbed the paperwork to prove how old she was. And don't you think that if it was documents that had that much evidence of deception, that Dee wouldn't have locked that bitch up? How the fuck would Gypsy have had access to something so precious that could prove so much frauding? Come on. Because it was Gypsy. Gypsy was going through the mail. Gypsy was getting what she wanted out, mailing it back in there, and that's how that's how charities was reaching out to Dee. Do you honestly think that these charities woke up one morning and said, hold on, this is the only victim in the world that deserves this, and they all reached out to one person? No. Out of everybody in that goddamn hospital, you think that they just picked this one special? No. Gypsy was doing it. Gypsy knew what the fuck was up because Gypsy made herself look like a 15-year-old. At 23 years old, her mama had nothing to do with it. Because at 3 years old, no. Gypsy wanted to be in that wheelchair, and Gypsy wanted to look like a 15-year-old kid, and Gypsy went in those places frauding the fucking shit out of the people that truly were victims. And only Gypsy could have done that, not Dee. That's just like that house. It was perfect until after she went out with Dan and she got back home. I think she lost total control of Gypsy. And then that's when she tried to take her mama's life, not once but twice, and succeeded on the third time. And I think that's when that first runaway, that first one, that's when the shit hit the fan. When her mom found out that Gypsy could fucking walk. For the first time, figured out that Gypsy could walk. I understand Gypsy walked probably around the house. And she could walk little ways. But as far as the deceiving part, as Gypsy needed to be in a wheelchair, no, I don't think her mom had any clue. And I think the first time she realized that was when Gypsy ran away. All of it makes sense when you... If you say it the other way, as in you want to blame Dee, and Dee was the one that was doing all of it, you can't connect the dots to 1 to 2. But I might be wrong. Anyway, if anybody has access to the any type of signatures on the charities paperwork, anything like that back then, JenniferWillis485 @gmail.com. Would you shoot me an email, please?